Greetings, fellow humans. Bad Mark here with another transmission from MechTech Keyboards, and today we're taking a look at a 75% aluminum kit from a company I have yet to review any of their keyboards. This is the A75 Pro from Marvo and Monka. I think they're the same company, or they're two brands of the same company. I see it interchanged a lot, or they may share some models that go back and forth, but this one was sent out to me by WhatGeek in order so that I had a chance, because there's a couple people that have asked me about it. I'm like, I wasn't even aware of this keyboard, to be quite honest. It's another 75% with knob. It does have the F13 and the knob instead of having the two keys like some of the 75% that have been coming out lately. One, or a video which I will be doing shortly, of all of those 75% in stock keyboards and kind of comparing them side by side, so you guys can have a better idea of what they may have in addition, or what they may lack. Anyway, I'm also breaking in my new desk mat from Kinetic Labs. It's called Sketched, and I really like it. I'm very good at getting stuff on my desk mat, and like solder and glue and cutting it sometimes when I'm getting a little too crazy modding a keyboard. I'm going to try to take care of this one, but it's a much thicker material than I'm used to, and it feels really nice. Anyway, so the A75, it is a 3-mode aluminum keyboard, hot swappable. And like I said, this is something that I've yet to take a look at. It does have the sea salt tactile. I think they're tactiles. They have the sea salt switches. There's a couple of different companies that have, like Gatoron just came out with the sea salt smoothie, which I'm really interested to take a look at because I like the regular smoothie a lot. But this one should be interesting, and let's go ahead and open it up and see what we've got in the box. As always, I like to take a look at what's included before we actually get into the keyboard. So after opening the box, on one side of the phone, we can find that we have a non-branded switch and keycap puller, as well as a standard USB-A to USB-C cable. And we also have, well, a user card, a user guide, paper quick start guide, I'm guessing. And it talks about the different function shortcut keys, and it appears to have a pocket for the 2.4 USB dongle. So I'm sure there's probably a downloadable PDF or manual that has more of the information, but we'll take a look at that when we get to this. And here we are with the Monka or Marvo A75 Pro 75% aluminum. It does come with a dust cover, which I have been seeing a lot on keyboards lately, and I appreciate it greatly from the manufacturers that they're including this, because it's only going to make the keyboard last longer. The less dust, the less grime, the less gunk you get underneath those keys, the switches, the PCB, the longer it's going to last. It's like that with pretty much any electronics. So good thing there. Already starting off on a good foot. Let's keep on going. So taking a look, we have a pretty standard 75%. We do have a knob, and it does feel like it's aluminum and has a different finish. The finish does have a texture. It's not like sandpaper. It's just more of a kind of like a grippy surface. We see that we have the USB-C connector there. There we have the Monka dongle, and it is branded, which is a good thing. I gotta say, I think this is reminding me of another keyboard, but like I said, I'm going to come back and do comparisons of all these different 75% aluminum boards that have come out in the $100 or less range that are now in stock, so that we can, kind of compare apples to apples and see if one really stands out from the other, if they're very similar, or if there's some dissimilarities between them. Looking at the bottom, we don't have a weight like some of these do have, but we do have some interesting feet. They're very similar to the Leobog series. So we have one. So with the rubber feet, like with most aluminum keyboards, we're going to only have one typing angle, and we'll get to that when we get to the technical section. So first things first, let's take a look at these keycaps and see what we. All right, so these are PBT keycaps. The legends on these are not bad. They're not the best I've seen, but they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see how thick they are. Oh, I accidentally reset it. Let me zero it out, and let's try that again. Oh, 1.5. 1.5 millimeters is a good size for the width of keycaps for double shot PBT. Now let's see what we've got on here. I seem to have found a string. I almost feel like CSI. Let's run it through the lab, boys. Feels just like some fabric. String from fabric. Okay, well, that was a sidetrack. So here's the switch, the sea salt linear. It does have badging, and it says Monka. Okay, so it's their own switch. It is a nice tactile. I would say it probably has a lighter spring in it, probably 42 to 45 grams. And the bump on it is medium. But it is nice. It does have a long pull, I would guess, and a travel of probably 3.8. And it also has a diffuser that appears that can also come out if you want it to. These diffusers, not only will they let the light shine through, but they actually, anyway, with the switches that I've tried, having them in, because it's a solid piece, it seems to deepen the switch just a tad bit. Now, looking on the PCB, we do have a layer of PET above the PCB, and we have a layer of IXPE on top of that PET. So we have the HiFi layers. We're gonna have a good sounding keyboard. Now this does come with plate mounted stabilizers. Let's go ahead and pop these out. All right, taking a look at these, they are lubricated, perhaps a bit too much, and it looks like they used oil instead of grease, or at least a clear grease, but it's very oily. It's not necessarily thick, which a grease usually works a little bit better for stabilizers. Just going to wipe off some of that extra because it's all over my hands. Looking at the PCB, I do not see or feel any spots to install screw-in stabilizers on the plate. I was afraid of that. All right, well, we will take a look at that further when we dive on in deeper, and because for the comparison video that I'll be doing, I'm going to be looking at all the construction, so I'll be opening all of them up. These are not necessarily the best plate mounted stabilizers. They're of this kind of translucent white, and as you can see, they are quite loose on the plate. But let's see how much of a difference that makes in sound when I put the key on. There is a slight amount of tick. It's not that much, but it's definitely something that you can hear. But it almost sounds squishy. It's almost like something that could be over-lubing, a switch or the actual stabilizers. But just out of curiosity, I'm going to open up the switch real quick. It is a 4-leg top switch. Well, I don't see a single bit of lube on the actual switch. And there's no ping. I don't know what they're doing with these switches nowadays, but they have figured out how to get rid of the ping. And unless they're using a very light and invisible lube, I've hardly been finding any on any of these, but they sound perfectly good stock. You know what? I think it might either be the IXPE or the PET layer that's happened on some of these, that you get a little bit of a, not really a bubble, but like a little bump that's not completely flat on there. Yeah, I don't know how much that's coming across on over the mic, but it definitely is making a sound that I know for myself I'd be stopping every 5 minutes and being like, what's going on with the backspace? Stabilized keys are the ones that you want them to sound good. I mean, they're loud, they're bigger, so they're louder. Just trying to see if I can flatten it out. I don't think it is with the loose stabilizers, but when I do come to Monda's keyboard, I'm definitely going to either replace the stabilizers or tape these up so that we're not dealing with these wobbly stabilizers. It's not as bad as it was. At least there's that. I know we want to stick with stock, but I didn't really modify anything. I just wanted to kind of fix it. The rest of the stabilized keys, though, they sound good. That one has a tiny little bit of that. Like I said, I've had this issue because I apply not IXPE but PE foam, and usually a different plastic like LDPE or PET or different ones, because it comes close enough to replicating this HiFi layer sound on a lot of keyboards, even on older steel plate tray mounted keyboards. But if I don't get it perfectly flat on there before I close everything up, I'll either have like a couple of keys or one key where when you press it, because that bubble is there, it's almost kind of making like a dome switch on a membrane keyboard. I mean, obviously it doesn't activate anything, but it's getting pressed down when you're putting pressure on the switch. I mean, the switch is connected, but there's a little bit of space there, and that's that squishiness on the sound that I believe is what's happening. So we do have a D-shaped knob. That's your standard 6mm D knob. If you are going to get a replacement, when it's a D knob, you want to make sure that it has a D and it's not completely round, because it's not going to fit in there if it's a 6mm round. So we do have a nice keycap set. I love this colorway. I think a lot of people do. They do have a couple other colors, pink being one of them. I do think they call this one blue. I believe there's a black, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll look at it. I'll look that up in the technical section. Otherwise, though, this keyboard does have that signature HiFi. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. To me, HiFi, I think, fits quite well. I've heard, marbly, I've heard poppy, I've heard thocky, though I think it's a little bit more on the higher pitched end, though I've heard some with modifications that they can get them deeper. Anyway, it's pleasant from people that, might have mechanical keyboards, maybe not as much into it as I am, to people that have no idea about mechanical keyboards. Almost everyone that I've shown one of these keyboards with the HiFi layers, especially the aluminum ones, as soon as they type it, it's almost like you can see on their face where, they're just kind of expecting this to just be another keyboard. They're going to type on it, and then when they hear it, they're like, and I've heard so many different descriptions. Like one of my daughters was like, it's like popping popcorn. My wife was like, sounds like popping bubble wrap. My son actually thought it sounded like a typewriter, but I was like, have you ever used a typewriter? He's like, no. I'm like, it doesn't quite sound like a typewriter, but he liked it as well. I mean, everybody that I exposed to, even some friends and neighbors, they were like, why does it sound like that? I'm like, does that sound good or bad? It's like, that sounds really good, and it sounds, I like it. Like, that's the primary, or the majority of the people that I tested really do like the sound profile. They say that it adds like an extra dimension to typing, and one friend said this actually makes typing fun. So I think they kind of hit on that HiFi profile, and I think we're going to be seeing it around for a while. Like I said, I've done a few videos. I am going to be doing a comparison video. I've actually already filmed some of the footage, but haven't had a chance to finish because I use 3 different plastics. But I take the same keyboard, an RK84, which is a steel-mounted aluminum frame keyboard. It's a pretty decent keyboard, can sound pretty good just with tape mod and PE foam. But I'm going to do the HiFi mod to it, and I want to compare. I'm going to use the same switches and the same Ghost Judge's keycaps, not the same colorway, but I mean they're all the same as far as thickness and material and how they're made, so that I can sound test them side by side and see if any one plastic, the PET, the LDPE, or I've got 2 LDPE plastics and 1 PET plastic, so I can go through all of them and see if any one of them stands out or if they're all pretty similar. So I think that'll be a good video once I get a chance to finish that up. I gotta say, I really like it. One of the things I would like to see is some different, at least maybe a split backspace or a split space bar or a caps lock. I mean, we are dealing with an aluminum keyboard. It's not going to be that much to add a couple of more spots on your on the PCB, but to have a step caps lock, maybe a split space bar, maybe a split left shift and a split backspace, it would be very nice, and I would like to see more of these manufacturers do it. But seeing this gives me the impression that we probably are dealing with a spring leaf mount, and I'm going to be going over mount styles in a different video. But if you guys want an answer, a quick and short answer, just ask me in the comments below, and I'll kind of explain the difference. I mean, it's just a different way of doing a gasket, because you can see you've got the flex, but the flex is a little bit different, and I think it works well in combination with the HiFi layers. All right, let's go ahead and turn it on real quick and see what the lights look like. Wow, ooh, they come on almost immediately, and almost every keyboard has function backspace to do the RGB cycling. Obviously, it wants to connect right now. We'll get to that in a minute. I want to take a look at the software, and let's hope that we at least have a function layer and per key RGB, and take a real quick look at what the macros look like. Don't get me wrong, I like solid keyboards, but some of them, especially when they're wireless, in my opinion, they're keyboards that are going to be used on the go. So feeling substantial but not being so heavy that your backpack might tear, I think is a good medium ground. Just the specs. Today we are taking a look at the Monka A75 Pro, a CNC aluminum 3-mode 75% keyboard with a knob. It comes with a spring leaf gasket mount, flex cut PC plate, a 1.2 millimeter thick PCB with south facing hot swap 3 and 5 pin compatibility, well dampened, and also includes HiFi layers. It is preloaded with Sea Salt V2 45-gram tactile switches, which are pre-lubed, and double shot PBT OEM keycaps. The capacity for the battery is 4,000 milliamp hours and comes weighing in at 1,462 grams fully loaded. The chin of this keyboard sits at 22 millimeters, while the back sits at 39 millimeters, providing for a default typing angle of 10 degrees. The MSRP for this keyboard is $85.99 at whatgeek.com. Links below. All right, so after downloading the software, we see the black version of the keyboard. I like some of these. They actually show the color that you have, but that's fine. We see that we really only have on the main screen is the key settings. We can set key sensitivity, and then we can also set the timeouts for the different wireless modes, which is pretty good. I wish it wasn't a drop down. It was more of a let me put in seconds or minutes, but if this is how they want to design it, it still works. People do like to have different timeouts sometimes, or no timeout at all. So it's good that they have that functionality. And I'm not sure what the key sensitivity does. I mean, the switch is going to activate when the switch activates. Now, reading the default configuration doesn't seem to change much. Neither does the key sensitivity as far as I was able to tell. Now, flipping over to the function setting, this is where we can program our function layer. And I will put it in air quotes because it does allow us to program certain keys, but not the ones that are already predefined for like controlling lights, or the ones they've already defined for scroll lock and other keys that aren't on the actual physical keyboard. But other than that, you can map it to either a key combination, a macro, a media function, or an actual mouse function. The macros is fairly complete. I mean, it has the ability to loop, it has button control, it has timing. You can fix the milliseconds of each and every single key. So it's fairly complete as far as closed source macros go. So under lights, we do have a selection of predefined light effects, but we can also go into light edit and configure per key RGB and save those different per key RGB animations into their own section and name them so that we can reload them later on. You can also, it's one of these software that allows you to create an account and share both your lighting configurations, macros for different games. When we get into the About section, we actually see a little red dot next to Upgrade in the firmware version, which means there is an update. Pressing that goes ahead and downloads it. Obviously, at this point, you want to make sure that your PC is either plugged into a UPS or you're on a laptop with a fully charged battery, just in case the power goes out. If it goes out in the middle of firmware flashing, there is a distinct possibility of actually breaking the unit altogether. So whenever you do a firmware update, whether it's on a computer, a keyboard, or any other device, you want to ensure that power is not going to be interrupted during that time frame. So once the firmware update is done, it redetects the keyboard. It has reset everything back to factory settings, but I can reload the key lighting setting that I set because I believe that's saved in the actual software, and it reloads it and puts it back onto the keyboard. But otherwise, it's a fairly decent, I've definitely seen much less feature-rich software than this. So we've got a very nice aluminum keyboard. We've got decent software. We've got, let's see, we have a nice stock sound. We have decent keys. They are OEM, so they're going to be a little bit taller. Some people will prefer a uniform, like say an XA profile, or some may prefer a taller, like an SA profile. But I think just switching the keycaps and or even switching the switches, I think the switches, and I will be coming back to it at a certain point. I'm going to leave it stock for right now because I want to do a comparison, like I said, of all these 75% keyboards that have been coming out. But this is definitely a good keyboard for the price. I mean, yes, do I wish it had QMK VIA? Absolutely. But is the control software, the driver software, really that bad? No, it'll get me to where I need to be so that I can use this as a daily driver because it has the memory storage on the keyboard, so I can program it in Windows, plug it into my Linux machine, and then I can just get going. It has nice lines on it. I like that it's aluminum, and it has the switch on the back as well as a pocket for the 2.4. I don't use it much, but it's nice to have the pocket there. And I actually do like the half rubber ball feet. They They allow for a little bit of sliding, but not as much because they actually have a little bit of grip. So for the most part, it's going to stay where you want it to stay. But I mean, having such a nice keyboard right out of the box, especially for this price, especially in stock. I mean, I know there was a lot of people that were like, hey man, do you know of a Rainy 75, the one that has the knob? Well, I mean, like I said, it is not the same as the Rainy, but it is extremely similar. So I don't think most people are going to tell too much difference between the two, especially in how they sound and how they feel. So I can definitely say that for the price, I can't believe that this is an option. I mean, remembering that there were plastic keyboards that were twice this much just a year ago. So an aluminum CNC 6063 with the gasket mounting, with HiFi, fully built with switches and keycaps that are decent. It's hard not to recommend this keyboard. Now, would I have liked to see it a little bit more in the box? Yeah, I would have liked to see some extra switches, a few extra keycaps in case we're gonna redo this. But like I said, with a lot of the plastic keyboards that I would buy intending to mod it, any pre-builds that I get, I kind of consider it a bare bone, and if the switches or the keycaps are actually worth using, that's a bonus. So I mean, if I really did want to switch this out, I could still use this keycap set on a different keyboard perhaps. But even at the price, buying another keycap set, it's not going to take this to a super expensive position. It is an affordable keyboard. It is in stock. You don't have to go through any games of, picking out what you want and then waiting who knows how long before you get it. No, you can order on Warmier or on you can place the order online and receive it within a week's time. Their shipping is usually pretty good. I think they'd have two options. I think the regular option to the US takes maybe like 10 days, but their express takes like 3 to 5 days. So but you know that you're going to get something. You're not going to have to wait months. You're not going to have to just, the whole meme of Pablo Escobar TV show of him walking around just waiting. It's going to come to you, and then you can either get going with it or open it up and mod it to your heart's desire. Switch out the switches, put in some new keycaps, change out the knob, and you're still going to be probably cheaper than you would even for the Rainy. I mean, because I know for the Rainy, for the RGB with the 2.4 with the wired, I've seen it up to $250, and you don't know if you're going to get it or not because no one knows what's going on with stock with the Rainy right now. Anyway, this is a good keyboard. I'm going to, I think this is going to hold a pretty high position in these 75% keyboards that I'm going to be taking a look at. Like I said, I'm going to compare them side by side, apples to apples, so that you guys can get an idea of what, each keyboard, which one might be the better fit for you if you are looking for a 75%. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys with a stock sound test of the Monka A75 Pro, a very decent 75% aluminum with a knob, 3-mode, and available for under $90 from whatgeek.com. I mean, that's just, it's insane to be able to say that. And, this is it. This is the MSRP. This is what you get. It's like, what? It's just amazing. So I do hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you have anything that you'd like for me to do when I do my comparison video, let me know down in the comments below. I will be coming back to it after that to probably do some mods. If you have any suggestions, any comments about that, please let me know down below. If you liked the video, throw me a thumbs up. If you didn't, throw me a thumbs down, but let me know what I can do to earn your viewership. I do my best to answer questions as often as possible. But for right now, I just want to wish everyone a wonderful day. And until the next transmission, keep calm and keyboard on.